Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, the latest on how Arizona counties are managing cases of measles around the state. Also tonight, a look at the federal government's new and significantly different food pyramid guidelines. And new study suggests that lowering blood pressure can reduce the risk of dementia. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simon. State and county health officials are monitoring an increase in cases of the flu, which is not unusual this time of year. But there's also concern over reports of exposure to measles, and that is unusual at any time of year. Joining us now is Will Humble, the executive director of the Arizona Public Health Association. Will, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. The flu increased, but not crazy, huh?
Yeah, right. And remember we talked a couple months ago about this subclade K, which is a variant of the influenza strains that went gangbusters in Europe, especially the UK. So we were expecting to have a really gangbusters year in Arizona and the U.S. So far, it hasn't been here. I mean, there's been an increase in cases, but not like a crazy spike that fills up hospital beds and that. It's been worse in like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that eastern seaboard, but hasn't been crazy here.
And there was concern that the initial flu shot, the flu shot that we're all getting, may not even apply to this K variant. But so far, so good.
So far, so good. Yeah, here.
Yes.
Like I said, in New York, they had their peak really, and it's kind of coming down in New York now. But and we could still have. I mean, we always have not always. We often have a late flu season, so that could still happen.
What about COVID, RSV, these things?
RSV went a really bad RSV season last year, if you remember, and this year it's been really not non-existent, but very low. COVID also not. So far, we're kind of lucking out on those diseases, but not in the next one.
Let's talk about measles. What is going on out there?
Well, not enough people are getting vaccinated. Not enough people are vaccinating their kids, and we've now dropped to the level where when there's a case of measles from international travel, for example, it can start spreading in the community if it gets into pockets of unvaccinated groups of people. So we've got 4 counties that I know of that are actively tracking cases right now. Mojave, which has been up on the Colorado Strip, that's been happening for few months now.
Right, up at the border.
Right. Maricopa County they've got 3 cases in Maricopa County. Just in those 3 cases, they have 3,000 contacts.
Oh my goodness.
Because people with measles were going to busy places like health clubs and movie theaters and things like that. And we have some cases in the ICE detention facility in Pinal County, and then a single case with a lot of exposures down in Pima County.
Yeah, and I want to get to ICE and the impact on health here in a second or so. But at Hale Theater, I think in Gilbert, there was exposure, and there was exposure in other areas as well. When you hear about these exposures, and you think, I wonder if I was there. How long of a wait do you have to do? What is the incubation period? What kind of time frame?
Yeah, so the incubation period has actually a pretty wide range. It can be from 7 to 15 days, and it starts with It starts with typical flu-like symptoms: malaise, fever of 101. Respiratory illnesses, but then there's this characteristic rash. Maybe you've seen it in textbooks and stuff.
Yeah.
It starts on the hairline and then goes to the rest of the body. And that's the diagnostic sort of feature that clinicians look for, is that rash. And then they're like, oh my goodness, this could be measles. And by the way, a lot of doctors have never even run into a measles case because it's been almost eradicated for the last 20 years. So it's like textbook stuff that you may not have seen in residence.
Wow, that is interesting. Okay, so how best to respond? Let's say you start getting this up here and it starts dropping.
Well, respond in terms of the public health sense is to get that person out of public.
Yes.
Like stay home for at least 21 days and don't expose other people. And if there's people in the house that are unvaccinated, get them vaccinated like straight away. And one of the things Maricopa County is doing, and I think the other counties are doing this too, because there's now community spread. One of these cases in Maricopa County, they can't find a known exposure to measles, so they're recommending kids, babies, infants, get that first MMR vaccine at 6 months rather than at the 12-month mark, because those little kids are the most susceptible.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are most likely to get the pneumonia and even die or have permanent brain damage from encephalitis. So it's a really dangerous disease.
And we had 220 measles cases last year. That was the highest in 30 years.
Now, those were mostly up on the Colorado Strip.
Okay, so that's best. But that's what happens. You get one big blowout, don't you?
Well, that's happened there. And then the Maricopa County cases started with someone who had been out of the country in a country that had lots of measles. They came back on the plane. They were symptomatic.
Yes.
And then those exposures happened around Maricopa County.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Your organization is urging a no vote on current DHS funding. Is that true?
You read my blog.
I
Ted.
did. What's going on
Yeah,
there?
our board of directors thought it was important for us to take a stand because the behavior of ICE and the CBP staff in lots of places, but in particular Minnesota, is posing public health threats and risks in lots of different ways, both the trauma that it's causing families on the emotional, physical, emotional health side, but also stopping people from getting to doctor's appointments, chilling effect when people do have illnesses that they decide, look, I'm not going to the hospital because I know there's going to be CBP and ICE agents there, and one of my family members is undocumented, and I'm just not going to go get health care. So we felt it was important to do that. And in particular, we urged Senators Gallego and Kelly to withhold their vote until there are more accountability measures and to roll back ICE funding to FY 2024 levels until they can demonstrate that they can manage a budget like this responsibly.
I would imagine it would also affect staffing at hospital and clinics as well. True?
I think I'm not sure about staffing, but it definitely has a chilling effect on people who are sick, who need care, that can't or decide not to go.
Well, because a lot of industries, a lot of businesses are saying that this kind of thing does affect staffing. And we're not talking about doctors and we're not talking about nurses, but we're talking about folks, that keep the place running and clean the place and keep it going.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, like some of the ancillary services
Exactly.
that get that. I suppose there could be places like that too. But one of the more disturbing things that we've been hearing is that there are ICE and sometimes CBP agents that are hanging out at you've seen they're hanging out at schools, they're hanging out at hospitals too, and I mean, is there no there's no sense of decency, So we felt it was really important for our board to take a stand on behalf of our members and to do that call to action to Senators Gallego and Kelly, who will need to make a vote in the next few days in order to avoid a federal government shutdown or go to the budget for CBP.
Before you go here, something else, the U.S. completely now, I guess, withdraws from the World Health Organization. And I want your thoughts on that because, again, I think I saw it on your blog, may not be necessarily a bad thing.
Well, so the United States has been a member of the founding member of the World Health Organization for 60 years. We've been members. The U.S. has been the biggest dues payer in the WHO. We had been paying 18% of the global dues for WHO. President Biden, as he was leaving office in early January, prepaid the 2025 dues, and President Trump, first thing in 2025, did executive order, sir, we're not doing WHO. Now we haven't paid our dues, so we're officially off the governing body, the governing board, the World Health Council. We no longer have a voice at the WHO. And my argument on the blog is that may not be such a bad thing, because with Secretaries Rubio and Kennedy in place and the kinds of decisions that they've been making, like getting rid of global health initiatives through various means, I felt like it was perhaps a bigger risk to have Secretary Kennedy meddle in WHO affairs. And to add to that, China, Switzerland, Sweden, and some other countries have backfilled almost all of the dues that we're no longer paying.
So they have backfilled then?
They have committed to, they don't have a check. WHO doesn't have China's check yet, but they've made that commitment.
But what does this mean as far as worldwide attempts when it comes to vaccination rates and health initiatives and these sorts of things, getting everyone on board if, the big guy over here is not on board?
Well, we're no longer part of it.
Yes.
So they can make their own decisions now without having the United States in the mix. And given Secretary Kennedy's aversion to vaccines, the vaccine policies that the WHO sets are kind of this global standard. And I think for the next 3 years, this is my opinion,
yes,
that we are probably better off without the U.S. involved in the decision making over the next 3 years.
Wow. All right. So you got me all confused there. Everything's upside down because we're talking about the food pyramid next, and that really is upside down.
Is that next?
That's next.
Okay.
Will Humble, Arizona Public Health Association. Good to have you here.
All right. Take care.
The O'odham were mostly farmers. We don't have like a war society. We had to transition into having a war society because of the enemies that were attacking us. That's a new thing that came to us with the Americans. So this is a traditional war club that's made out of ironwood. If you know ironwood, it's very strong wood. This is one of the old weapons, and this was used by the bravest warriors because it's hand-to-hand. It's close combat with the shield and a war club. And so there's a whole ceremony behind warfare to take care of yourself. And that's one of the things that was lacking during the American time, is we lost that ceremony to take care of men that came back from war. So we have a lot of men, even in the modern wars, where we're trying to regain a ceremony to take care of them, you know, clean them from what they've done and have them be good in the community again.
U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You recently released a new food pyramid that flipped the dietary guideline on its head, including an emphasis on meat and other proteins and less of a focus on whole grains and fruit. To learn more about the changes, we welcome Stephanie Espinoza. She's a registered dietitian. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Your thoughts on just general thoughts, and then we'll kind of drill down on certain things here. General thoughts, 30,000-foot view. What do you make of these things?
Well, it hasn't changed too much from what the last ones were, the 20 to 25, except for what you mentioned. They've added more meat, they've put an emphasis on meat, and really encouraged people to do whole fat dairy, like whole milk, whole fat yogurt, which increases the saturated fat content of people's diets, which is counter to what the recommendations are, because there's written recommendations and then there's that pyramid. And the written recommendations say we need to keep our saturated fat intake to less than 10%. The American Heart Association actually recommends less than 6%, but by encouraging people to have 3 servings of whole milk a day, that, like you said, it just puts it on its head. It doesn't add up to the research.
When it comes to RFK Jr. said the U.S. is ending its war on saturated fats. Is that a good thing?
Well, I didn't know there was a war on it. I thought that was kind of a heavy word for nutrition, which should be positive. You know, our food is a positive thing in our life. So I don't think we need to have a war on saturated fat. I think the evidence is clear that high intake of saturated fat in our diet leads to an increase in the bad cholesterol, which then leads to heart disease. And heart disease is a leading cause of death in the United States. So it's something we do need to be focusing on.
Okay, so the focus now is whole foods, proteins, and healthy fats. That the proteins nearly doubles the daily intake.
Right.
Is that a good thing?
You know, the original recommendation of 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram was just to prevent deficiencies. So the doubling of it, though, with 60% of Americans having a chronic disease, heart disease, kidney disease, diabetes, those kinds of things, hypertension. Protein plays a role in pushing those along the continuum. So if I have chronic kidney disease and I double my protein intake, I'm stressing out my kidneys. That's not a good thing. So most people don't understand that if they haven't met with a dietitian. And so I think we'll see some harm being done if people take that to heart.
I was going to say, though, and that's a really good point, this food pyramid, these recommendations, these guidelines, are they for the average healthy Joe, or are they for all of us at all times?
Well, they're broad, right? And dietitians will take them, and then we apply what we know to the individual. But the issue is that those types of recommendations then inform like school lunch. Heart disease is something that starts very early in our life. And so if we're pushing whole fat dairy and more protein onto the plates of our kids without caution, then what is that going to look like down the road for them?
And you referred to the 3 servings of full-fat dairy per day.
Yeah.
All right, from a dietitian standpoint, it doesn't sound like you think that's such a great thing.
Well, 10%, if on average, most Americans, depending on our size, needs about 2,000 calories. And so 10% of saturated fat would be about 22 grams. 3 cups of milk is 15 grams. So if I have anything else in my day that has saturated fat, it's going to push me over that. We already eat about over 12% of our intake from calories from saturated fat. So this isn't going to help us to cut back to where we should be.
What about the idea of whole grains and fruits at or near the bottom, or the de-emphasis of this particular pyramid? What do you make of that?
Well, whole grains and fruit are carbohydrate foods. And in this country, our diet culture seems to love to demonize foods for profit. And so by moving something out of the picture and elevating something else, somebody's benefiting from that. I don't restrict carbs in my patients' meal plans unless I need to. Maybe they're diabetic. Maybe they're trying to lose weight, and so we're manipulating the macronutrients. But in general, we don't need to be restricting fruit. It's full of nutrients and fiber, which is important. And then whole grains, full of fiber again, and vitamins and minerals. I don't think we need to be cutting back like they're recommending.
I noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that there's no more daily guidelines regarding alcohol. First of all, is that true? And secondly, is that a lost opportunity?
It's a huge lost opportunity. Alcohol consumption just skyrocketed during COVID, and people are still trying to come to terms with that in their personal lives. I know with individual patients that I see, alcohol can be a real problem in their lives, and by not encouraging people to look at that and to cut back, it's only going to harm them. It's a toxin.
So the critics say this is muddled, this is ideological, there's a lot of politics involved here. Do you agree? Do they have a point?
I think they do have a point, yes, because we need to keep food in perspective and to individualize it. And so when we go out and we push these narratives that that they're not backed up by what our health is saying,
yes,
I think that is a missed opportunity, like you said.
And the previous ideas were backed by science, you say, more so than this?
Yes. The saturated fat, that issue has been studied and for the last 75 years. Like, we know that saturated fat is something that's harmful to us. We need to limit it. Everybody loves a good steak, but it's not something you want on your plate on a daily basis.
Stephanie Espinoza, dietitian, nutritionist, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next time on Death in Paradise.
I put my phone in his coffin myself.
After a friend dies of a heart attack, Dwayne receives a startling text.
It appears he knew he was about to be murdered.
So what really happened to Dwayne's friend? Death in Paradise.
Saturday night at 8 on Arizona PBS. Arizona PBS wants to wish a very happy birthday to our Arizona PBS Kids Club members that are having a birthday. Thanks so much for being a part of the Arizona PBS Kids Club. And if you'd like to see your name here during your birthday month, get a grown-up's help to visit azpbs.org/family to learn about our Arizona PBS family membership. So happy birthday from all of us at Arizona PBS.
Put the kettle on again. We're going to have company.
Well, it has been unseasonably cold.
Comfortable bed, home-cooked meals.
Oh, sounds perfect.
Shall we just stay here?
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that.
You are very much in the right place.
Intriguing.
Intriguing and potentially rewarding. Something for everyone, if you catch my drift.
Lower blood pressure can lessen the chance of dementia later in life. That's according to new guidelines from the American Heart Association. Health officials hope that this new information will help motivate people to get treated for high blood pressure. We talked about the link between blood pressure and dementia with Dr. Anna Burke. She's the director of neuropsychiatry at Barrow Neurological Institute at St. Joseph's Hospital and Medical Center. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about these new guidelines from the American Heart Association regarding blood pressure and dementia later in life. What are we talking about here?
Well, we know that there are certain conditions, comorbid conditions, that can actually increase the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease. And high blood pressure or hypertension is one of these conditions. So controlling your blood pressure really does seem to make an impact in reducing your risk.
It sounds like the studies show that especially blood pressure in mid to later life, like 40 to 64 years of age, even then it makes a difference?
Absolutely. There are several studies. In fact, there's been analysis of 17 studies that has shown us that midlife is really when you want to tackle that blood pressure. Having chronic hypertension actually increases the likelihood that you will develop something called mild cognitive impairment, which is a precursor of dementia and likely increases your risk of developing dementia over time.
So why is this happening? What's the connection?
Well, if you imagine if the blood pressure is high, it's kind of like having high pressure in the pipes in your home. Over time, that is going to damage all of the appliances in your house, right? Same thing happens with your body. If the pressure inside your blood vessels is high, that will translate to damage to certain parts of the body, and the brain is particularly sensitive to this, but so is your heart, your kidneys, and your eyes.
And it sounds like, what, arteries get narrowed during this process?
Well, the arteries become stiffer, and that's pretty normal for aging. It happens to most of us. So about half of all Americans actually are struggling with hypertension, although they may not have any symptoms and not know about this. And over time, that chips away at your brain health. It causes something called white matter disease, which is basically minor damage to the brain.
Vascular dementia, is that what we're talking about here?
Well, yes. So there is a form of dementia called vascular dementia where those blood pressure changes and vascular changes do cause a specific type of cognitive impairment. But high blood pressure has also been linked with other conditions like Alzheimer's disease.
Well, and compare, if you would, vascular dementia with Alzheimer's and other forms of, does blood pressure seem to focus in on one of these things or all of them?
Well, on all of them, but certainly it increases mainly vascular dementia risk.
Yeah. So, what is the best way to lower blood, especially from the ages of 40 to 64? I mean, everyone needs to lower their blood pressure to a certain degree, I would imagine. But is it exercise? Is it food? Is it that simple?
Well, first of all, you need to know what your blood pressure is. And most Americans, unfortunately, do not. So you definitely want to keep your blood pressure below 120 systolic, meaning that higher, that first number. So identifying the problem first, and then talking to your primary care physician about all of the options. We know that medications used for blood pressure have been shown to reduce dementia risk. In addition, you want to manage a healthy lifestyle. So this means exercise. This means proper diet, eliminating the standard American diet and focusing more on a good Mediterranean diet, reducing your salt intake, and of course, reducing stress, as well as improving sleep.
Yeah, so I know sleep is a big thing here. But as far as blood pressure medication is concerned, if you take the medication in between 40 and 64, and especially in the latter part there, can you feel your cognitive differences here? Is there a results?
You will in about 10 to 20 years.
but not at that time.
Not necessarily immediately, but if you are having symptoms of high blood pressure, which can include headaches, dizziness, you may actually notice changes at that point.
So again, it's the LDL that's most concerning, that higher LDL that you really got to watch out for.
The systolic blood pressure.
Yeah.
So you want to keep your blood pressure below 120/80.
120. Okay, I got you. Is dementia, Alzheimer's, all of these things, these brain things, if you have wonderful blood pressure, and you always have wonderful blood pressure, can you still get those forms of dementia?
You can. Unfortunately, there are multiple factors that come into play as far as a cognitive impairment. We know that there are genetic factors that play a risk, environmental exposures that probably increase your risk, particularly of the most common form of dementia called Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah. Last question. What do we take from these studies and from this information?
Well, controlling your blood pressure is vital to maintain your brain health. And lifestyle does have a huge impact on this. But first of all, identifying whether you do have a problem or not is the first step.
Yeah, get your blood pressure checked.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dr. Anna Burke, again, Barrow Neurological Institute. Really interesting stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. That's it for now. You have a great evening.
Coming up tonight at 7. At 7:30. At 8.